This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show, a weekly recap of your Philadelphia Eagles. Broadcasting live from Hard Rock Cafe in Philadelphia, tonight's show is brought to you by Penn Community Bank, Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia, Independence Blue Cross, The Capitol Grill, Rob's Automotive and Collision, and BCWSA. We now go live to the Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Center City, Philadelphia for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
And welcome, everybody, to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff from here at the newly renovated Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Streets. Eagles, the number one seed. We're going to talk about it tonight with my co-host, Paul Domowitch. How are you, Domo?
Doing well, Jolly. How about you?
Doing very, very well as the year breaks into its ninth day and things start to bloom a little bit. Hopefully the Eagles will in the playoffs. Played Jalen yesterday. We'll talk about that game and so much more. And I do mean so much more. Normally we say stuff like that, but really don't mean it sometimes. We do mean it tonight because our guest is one of the most unbelievable guests, and the timing here, I'm not sure what you would call it because you can put your own stamp to this. He was playing as a freshman for Penn State in 2000 at Ohio State when he made a tackle and went down and was paralyzed. And through medical miracles, he was regained the function of his limbs to walk again. He ran out of the tunnel with 109,000 people screaming at Penn State the next year. He's a walking miracle. Obviously, with what happened to DeMar Hamlin, there's parallels here, but we'll also talk Eagles and much more with us from Swedesboro, New Jersey, Mr. Adam Taliaferro. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Paul. Paul, appreciate you both having me. So it's an honor to be with you guys tonight.
And my middle name's Adam.
So good name, man.
Mine isn't.
Adam, I mean, obviously we're here to talk about the Eagles, but your situation paralleling the DeMar Hamlin situation. He had a heart attack, obviously, and you didn't. You were paralyzed. But what's it like? I don't know how else to ask this question. When you're down and the whole world's watching, what's that like?
You know, Paul, it's so interesting because when you're down there on the field, you don't realize the impact that it's having on others. Initially, I remember when I was on the field, just looking up. I was trying to get up, and the thought of being paralyzed, and I'm sure with DeMar, the thought of having a heart attack on the field.
He was unconscious.
He was unconscious, but the thought of anything bad happening to you while on the football field is you never think it's going to happen to you. So when I was on the field, I just thought, I had a stinger. The thought of being paralyzed never went through my mind. But the thing that really got me was when I saw the reaction of my teammates looking up and seeing the fear in their eyes and seeing the fear in my coach's eyes and the trainers. And that's when I knew something was wrong. And it just, for me, you just start to panic.
Well, you were a freshman at Penn State, starting as a freshman, which not many people did for Coach Paterno, from Eastern High School in New Jersey. You were Mr. Everything, senior year in high school, starting at cornerback. The world's in front of you, 110,000 people at Ohio State, and like that, the world changed. That to me is fascinating, not because of the fascination of it, because of the suddenness of it. You went from on top of the world to whatever you want to call this in a heartbeat. Yeah. What did that teach you about life? Obviously, it's been 20 years, but what's the number one lesson that you thought when you were on the field, if you thought one, and what has taught you in the years since when you've done so much?
Paul, I think that the biggest thing that it taught me is that, stuff happens. You can be in the prime of your athletic career, and the next second you can have no feeling and no movement below your neck. And the biggest thing that going through that injury taught me was the value of people. Prior to the injury, I thought, I can get through life on my own. I thought, I got to Penn State on everything that I did. Of course, I had two great parents and a great brother, but you just think you're invincible. But when I had that injury, I needed to rely on people to do everything, whether it's brush my teeth. At the time, I had hair, brush my hair, and all those kind of things. And it just taught me to appreciate and rely on other people for help. And even to this day, I've become more comfortable. If I need help with something, I'm going to ask. And back then, I that wasn't the person I was.
When someone dies, they talk about stages of grief and things that you go through. What did you go through in coming back? I mean, I assume at some point there had to be self-pity and frustration and everything else, but you never took no for an answer.
Yeah. Let me just leverage that for 1 second. Everybody here have something horrible happen to me. I read all the time. Somebody say, "I never asked why me." I don't understand how you can't ask why me. I mean, why wouldn't you? you have this wonderful life. It's taken away from you in a heartbeat for whatever reason, and you have to rationalize it. But to me, if you don't ask why me, I don't get that. Did you?
Yeah, Paul, I think you hit the nail on the head. That was the first thing I remember when I got to the hospital. The first thing I asked the doctor was, is my football career over? And he said, Adam, we can't answer that for you, but we've got, bigger issues that we have to worry about. But then when I realized the severity of my injury and it became clear that I wasn't going to be able to play football anymore, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And that's when I first started, why me? Out of all the guys that have gone through Penn State, how can I be the first one to have this horrible injury? And my dad, I remember about 3 weeks after my injury when I got to McGee Rehab here in Philly, I got there and we were on the rooftop and that was the first time I cried. And my dad said, get it out. And, from this point forward, we're just going to work on getting better, because he was kind of shocked that I hadn't really cried. I hadn't really shown much emotion for the first 3 weeks. But when I got here and realized that I was actually disabled, that I was paralyzed, and I tell people, these injuries, whether any type of catastrophic injury, a lot of times it's more mental than physical, because a lot of the physical is out of your hands. Yeah. And the only thing you can do is work on trying to keep that positive mindset. And I say no one person could get through this injury. I was so fortunate. I had great parents. I had an entire community in this Delaware Valley, in the Penn State community, that was pulling for me for my entire recovery, which really helped me get through it.
How long was it between the injury and when you went to McGee?
Yeah, so I had my injury. I was fortunate. We were playing out at Ohio State, where they have a nationally recognized spinal cord center right on campus, so they were able to get me to the hospital immediately. So I got injured on a Saturday, had my surgery on a Monday, and the week later they flew me back here to Philly to Thomas Jefferson Hospital, where I was in intensive care for a week and a half. So about 3 weeks after my injury, I was admitted to McGee Rehab to start my rehab journey.
Right.
And you, of course, obviously were the beneficiary of not just well wishes, but all kinds of stuff, not just from Penn State, not just from Philly, but all over the world. It was a ginormous moment when it happened, somewhat like last Monday night was. Yep. You carried a Buckeye around, and you've done an event with me before, and I think you're one of the most inspirational, unbelievable people to come back from paralysis like you have, like nobody that I've ever heard of. You mentioned a couple of people that have in your ballpark, but whatever the club is, it's pretty damn small. You said you carried a Buckeye. Everybody said, what's a Buckeye? A Buckeye's like a walnut. Yep. And you carried one in your suit, wherever with you, 24/7 for about 10 years. Tell everybody why.
Yeah, when I was in the hospital, all my nurses, of course, when I was in Ohio, they were huge Buckeye fans. And I tell people all the time that the way that the folks out in Ohio treated me was second to none. And I became friendly with a lot of the nurses, even to this day, 22 years later. And when I was being released from the hospital, my nurse gave me a Buckeye. I didn't know what the heck it was. I'm like to your point, what the heck is this thing? It looked like a little walnut. Yeah. And she said, just keep this, as a memory of your time here. And it was one of those things where I became very superstitious. And I kept that Buckeye in my pocket for 10 years until it started to crack a little bit. And I didn't want it to break, and I still keep it in my house to this day. But it was just one of those kind gestures and something that I look at it, and I always look at it. It's like a lucky, lucky coin. For me, it's my lucky Buckeye that my nurse gave me, and something I'll always cherish, all these years later.
Now, if I recall, they said they gave you a 3% chance of walking again.
Ever.
When did they tell you that? At what point in the rehab?
Yeah, I was fortunate. They never told me directly. They told my parents. So the night my parents were watching the game on TV, and my dad flew out to Ohio that evening. And when my dad got to the hospital, they said, Adam's been severely injured. He's got severe swelling in his spinal column, and we're not sure if he's ever going to walk again. And then after I had my surgery, they told my parents and our team doctor, Dr. Sebastianelli at Penn State, said, Adam, most likely he's not going to walk again. We give it about 3% chance of him walking again. And like I said, I was oblivious to this. My parents made the decision to never share that information with me. But my parents, of course, were devastated when they heard that prognosis. But I was so fortunate. Just like Damar, I had immediate medical care on the field that gave me the best chance for recovery. And I tell people all the time, just again like Damar, if you have an injury, outside of being in the hospital, the football field is the best place to have these type of injuries, because you have such medical expertise on the sidelines, and they really do what's best to give you the best chances for recovery.
What was it like, Adam? And we'll get to DeMar in a second. I want to know if you're going to reach out to him at all, or he'll come reach out to you. But what's it like to feel the warmth of humanity, again, nationally, worldwide, rooting for you? You're a Penn State cornerback one moment and a paralysis victim the next moment to the entire crowd, to the entire world. What's it like to have that much love behind you? We wonder what's Damar Hamlin feeling. You're one of the few people in the world that's kind of felt that. Yep. What's that like?
It's truly hard to put into words. I remember the week after my injury, we were playing against Purdue, and that was the team where Drew Brees was their quarterback, and they were doing really well that year. And I remember turning on the game, and first thing I saw was all my teammates had 43 on the back of their helmet. My number was 43. And then as they're panning the crowd, like all these people have like signs like we're thinking about you, and all across the front row they had these banners with my name on it, and I just was so taken aback by, to your point, that the humanity. Like these people are like people I never met in my life are praying for me and caring for me. Then when I get back here to Philly, I'm at McGee Rehab, right, a few blocks from here, and people would just come to the hospital and just say, hey, we're thinking about you, want to come see how you were doing. And I was just so inspired. You expect your parents to be there, your family, your friends, but it really would inspire me every day when I would get a card from people that I never met before saying, hey, we saw your injury on TV, just want you to know that we're praying for you. And you want to start, it makes you want to get better for the people that are doing all this amazing things for you. So it was just so amazing, and it really showed me the good in people. I know we see a lot of bad stuff on the news and all those type of things, but there's so much good in the society, and I saw it firsthand when I was going through my injury.
Did you ever doubt you would walk again?
I never doubted if I would walk again. I was just worried about how long it would take. The doctors weren't giving me much information. They would just say, hey, we got to take it one day at a time. And my parents, every day, my dad was like, you're going to walk. Like, my dad was like, you're going to walk again every single day. They never left the hospital when I was there. And they wouldn't allow me to have any type of negative thoughts. But as a young 18-year-old kid, I was impatient, and I wanted to be walking yesterday. And, it took 8 months to get back on my feet again. But
when did you give up on, I hate to ask this way, but when did you give up on football? When did you realize that's just not going to happen?
I didn't give up on football until I got back to Penn State a year later. And, because I was like, I'm progressing, things are starting to move again. I said, if this keeps going, I may be able to run again. I may be able to play again. And it wasn't until I got back to Penn State a year later after my injury, and I was still, walking around with a limp. And I lost, I was 190 when I was playing. When I got back to Penn State, I was like 150. I was skinny. And that's when it hit home that summer at summer camp when I see the guys putting their uniforms on. I'm just sitting there in the locker room. And that's another thing, talking about kind of low points. I started feeling, horrible again, because I played football my entire life, and I felt like, what can I do now? All I knew was football. But I felt guilty because here I am back at Penn State. I'm walking. And there's other patients that are, still in wheelchairs, still trying to learn to breathe on their own. I'm pretty much recovered, and I'm worried about playing football again.
Well, all you've had to do, Adam, is settle for being an attorney, going to law school, being a public speaker. You can hear a pin drop when Adam speaks at any kind of event, doing all kinds of corporate motivational speaking, having a foundation, working for Bristol Myers Squibb. You haven't really landed on your feet. You've landed on your feet and run with it. It's unbelievable what you've done. Do you think you're going to reach out to Damar? Do you think he knows about you? Obviously, it was 20 years ago when he was basically just born. Do you think you're going to connect at some point?
It's so ironic because when I had my injury, a guy by the name of Terry Pagula was really...
He owns the Buffalo Bills.
He owns the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. He's a Penn Stater. He was very supportive of me and my family when I was going through my most difficult times. He donated a ton of money to my recovery, and here we are 20 years later. And when I saw the injury happen, Terry was one of the first people that I texted just to say, hey, just thinking about you, thinking about the entire Bills organization. Yeah. I know he's had a million things going on, so I haven't heard back from him, but I'm sure I'll hear from him sometime in the coming weeks. And of course, I'd be open to reaching out to him. And Miles, he's another Penn State guy. Miles Sanders, who I, of course know just through our Penn State connections. I know he's really close with Damar as well. So just let him know, whenever he wants to talk, if he ever needs to talk, I'm here.
It's incredible. One thing before our first break, you went out of the tunnel and led the Penn State team out. One of your goals was to lead the team out of the tunnel without assistance. 110,000, give or take, people at Penn State standing on their feet, going berserk. As you said, everything was great until kickoff. You played a Miami team that pretty good, but that wasn't the story of that night. When you went out of that tunnel, what's it like when 110,000 people and a TV audience in the millions is just screaming and chanting your name, and you know that you've actually made it to this point when the world said you can't, you could and did, and now you're coming out of that tunnel. What are you feeling?
It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, because everyone that had a part in my recovery was in the stadium that evening. Started with my parents to my physical therapist, my doctors, everyone was there. So for me, I was just so excited to show everyone that I was okay, and to thank folks for all their support and prayers over that entire year of my recovery. So I remember coming out, and each step I took, I heard the crowd getting louder and louder, and I said, I want to try to. I started trying to walk a little bit faster, and then I was able to, jog just a few steps, and it was something I hadn't done in that entire year, because I was basically still trying to learn how to walk. So I tell everyone I haven't run again since that day, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life being able to do that.
A lot of people that go through something traumatic and can't do something anymore in sports don't want to be around that particular thing anymore, that team, and because it's just so painful. Mm-hmm. You took the opposite approach. I mean, you were a student assistant coach for a couple of years after you came back, right?
Yeah, I give our coaches, starting with Coach Paterno and Tom Bradley, who was our defensive coordinator at the time, they wouldn't let me. Like, there were days I would go in the football building and want to walk out, and when I'm walking out, coach would be like, where are you going? And they literally wouldn't let me leave. Yeah. And Coach Tom Bradley was like, you're going to be my second-hand guy. You're going to do our defensive signals, and whether you like it or not, you're going to do it. Like, they didn't give me an option. Right. So they made me come to all the practices. They made me work out with the team. Everything remained the same except me actually putting on a uniform up at Penn State. So I tell people they kept me in the fold. Even days when I didn't want to be there, they made me continue as an athlete. And I give them so much appreciation, because when I was there, I was like, man, I didn't feel like being part of it, but they knew it was important for me to remain a part of the team, and they made sure I stayed for my entire 4 or 5 years up there.
It's incredible. I mean, we followed the DeMar Hamlin situation. Yours is somewhat parallel to that. Our guest is Adam Taliaferro, the one and only. We'll talk Eagles with him. We'll also talk about what Adam's life has become since that fateful day in 2000. It's pretty cool. I want to remind you that happy hour every Monday to Friday here at Hard Rock from 5 to 7. $1 off Bud Light, Sam Adams, and Blue Moon. $6 House Chardonnays and Merlots. $5 Smirnoff and Cruise In Rum singles. $7 for doubles. And join us here at Hard Rock for live entertainment in the cafe every Wednesday. Enjoy some great food and our happy hour drink specials every Wednesday, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Hard Rock Cafe, 12th and Market in Philadelphia, where Paul Domowitch and I will be back with Adam Taliaferro on the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff right after this. Stay with us.
Hard Rock Cafe has it all. Great food takes center stage as they tune up your visit with free live music every Friday night at 6. Sponsored by Conshohocken Brewing Company. See Philly's best rocking the main stage while you enjoy Hard Rock favorites right here in Center City. Pickup, delivery, and catering available. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See spa for details.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
Welcome back to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show, live from Hard Rock Cafe Philly. And don't forget, you can watch the show live at WBCBSports.com and Facebook Live by searching WBCB Sports here at the Hard Rock. Friday Night Live is live music every Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. No cover, the best local artists on the main stage every week. Make your reservations, www.hardrock.com. Our guest is Adam Taliaferro, taking a little bit of a different tack tonight, not starting with the Eagles, but with Adam, who's an unbelievable story, and the parallel with DeMar Hamlin is too strange to ignore. Adam, you took this ball and ran with it in life, that life gave you back, and you went to law school and you became an attorney. You're working for Bristol Myers now. You do speaking engagements. One thing that I was a little concerned about, that maybe you hadn't returned back basically to health, I thought maybe a little bit of a concussion. You went into politics and were a state representative for 7 years. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Paul, I had really no desire to ever get involved in politics. Growing up, I didn't follow it much, and then my wife and I moved to Swedesboro, and I just, to get to know people, I started going to different community events, and got to know a guy by the name of Steve Sweeney. And Steve was he was the Senate president in New Jersey and represented the district that I was in, and we struck up a friendship, and he said, "Hey, you ever thought about getting involved in politics?" I'm like, "Steve, I never in a million years." So he said, "Well, he's like, do you like sports?" And he said, "I know you played football growing up." I said, "Yeah." He's like, this is like sports. You got to work with people, and you can help. At the end of the day, you can help people, and that's how I got hooked in, and started out at the county level. I was a freeholder, what they now call county commissioners. I was a commissioner for 5 years, and then opportunity came to move up to the state level, and was given an opportunity to join the General Assembly in New Jersey, and served there for 7 years, and it was an interesting experience.
Good or bad?
I would say a little bit of both. I say the people you get to meet up there, there's some very passionate people, but then there's some folks up there that you don't know if you can take their word, and there's some folks that sometimes have ulterior motives for what they're trying to do. I went up there, I always say, playing football, I didn't know if my teammates were Republican or Democrats. I just know we were all pushing in the same direction. And that's how I tried to, go into it each and every day when we went to Trenton. It was like, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. As long as you're trying to do what's right for people, I'm willing to work with you. And, it wasn't always appreciated at times. But,
well, that's what politics is supposed to be, not last week in Washington with the circus that we saw.
Yeah. I remember talking to John Runyon about his experience.
Yep.
I guess it was it was about the same time he probably started with the Freeholders, that he did his first of 2 terms in Congress, and he thought it was going to be a good experience, and he thought he could help. Then he realized it was just so much chaos and so hard to get anything done that he said. He finally just said, "That's it."
Look what McCarthy had to do just to be Speaker of the House before you got a piece of legislation done. But Adam stuck with it and is an attorney, a lot of public speaking. Tell us about, Adam, your foundation and the public speaking and how you've leveraged a terrible event in your life into something good to help other people.
Yeah, I've just been so blessed to be surrounded by just good people. And when I had my injury, there was a lot of money that was raised for my potential lifelong care because, as we said earlier, the thought was I may not recover. And when we got all this money in and I recovered, my high school coach, guy by the name of Larry Ginsburg, God rest his soul, passed away a couple years ago, but he got a group of coaches together and he said, why don't we create a foundation where we can help other folks that aren't as fortunate as you are to have this amount of support to try to provide some financial and emotional support to other folks going through not only spinal cord injuries, but any type of catastrophic injuries. So the foundation was created in 2001, and our main goal is to help folks the same way that I was helped. When I was going through my injury, I didn't have to worry about anything financially. All I had to do was worry about getting better, and I had all the support in the world. So we try to provide that same support to patients going through these injuries, and more importantly, we try to provide that financial support. So at the end of the day, all they have to do is worry about how they're going to get better.
Pleased to say, obviously, that DeMar Hamlin left the hospital today on his way back to Buffalo, probably in Buffalo, going to be in the hospital there. A long road to recovery. They got to find out exactly what's wrong, and it's great to the point that we can talk about it in this manner, Damo, but think of the guy or the woman that's the head of DeMar's charity for kids, a goal of $2,500, and then now you look up and you got $8 million and change in the bank. They're going to buy toys for the world, aren't they? People are good, huh?
It's amazing. Just when you think you've given up on people and you think civilization is going to hell.
Exactly.
There are instances like that where it makes you feel good.
And we feel good here in Philadelphia, Adam, about Jalen Hurts and his banged-up shoulder yesterday, and I think it's probably a little worse than people realize. They didn't want to run him. Obviously, Wink Martindale knew that, and he didn't have to devote resources to that. Eagles passed their first 9 plays. Play calling wasn't great. Damo struggled, but beat the Giants 22-16, have the number 1 seed. Damo, is there any correlation at all between the way the Eagles played yesterday? Obviously, without Lane Johnson, without Avonte Maddox, who knows about the playoffs, what that'll bring. But I think Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon just said, let us get through this one, worry about the playoffs. They kind of chugged in 2017. Obviously, we know what happened. Are you worried at all right now?
No. I mean, I still think it's going to be them in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game.
Here?
I think there's a step down from those two with the rest of the NFC. Oh. What? Not working?
Technology. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Dallas is capable of beating anybody, but as we saw yesterday, a mystifying 20-point loss in Washington, so I don't know what to make of them. So, I mean, the funny thing was, it struck me yesterday, you're watching Nick Sirianni, and, he's playing, he had to play Jalen yesterday, he had to play his starters, when typically that would have been a game you would have rested these guys. And I think his plan was, okay, we're going to get a big lead because they're playing their backups. We're going to get out of here by halftime. We're going to rest everybody, no injuries. And it didn't work out that way because they never were ahead enough where he could feel comfortable to just go back to Gardner Minshew and the rest of them. And, I think he spent the whole second half saying, please, God, don't let anybody get hurt here.
Well, which brings us back to our original comment tonight at the top of the show, Adam, the best laid plans of mice and men. When you walk into an athletic event, when you walk into a meeting, when you walk into anything in life, there's no guarantees as to what's going to happen, and you got to have plan B, don't you?
Absolutely, and I always think it's so interesting, certainly at the professional level where you think you got second and third teamers in there, but these guys are NFL players, and more importantly, they're auditioning for the other, 31 teams. That if they get out there, they want to make plays. So you're not going to just walk through any team. So
people call me on WIP, say so and so has bad players, they're starting their backups. Do you realize how the people that couldn't make an NFL team had a separate league? Obviously there are now USFL, XFL. But everybody in the NFL is a great football player. Is it fair to say that? There are no bad football players. There are bad teams. There are bad coaches. There are teams that are better than others. But the backups on an NFL team, it's not like they picked up people at the bus station, right?
Yeah. That's the thing, man. These guys, some of these guys are all Americans. These are guys that, like you said, there's no such thing as a bad player. There are certainly players that are better than others, but all these guys have the capability to hurt you if you overlook them.
All right, Tom, the record set yesterday, Devontae Smith with catches and Mike Quick's receiving record. And we talk about this silly little thing. My least favorite word in all of sports, maybe in all of life, is asterisk. The dumbest thing. People say put an asterisk by this, put an asterisk by that. You don't need an asterisk anywhere in the record book, in any sport, anywhere, because the people who don't care, don't care. And the people who do care that somehow are reading a record book, they know the situation anyway. People say that there's an asterisk, and neither one of you guys can answer this, for 17 games, and it was 16. Well, it was 14 before that, and it was 12 before that. So unless you started in the NFL on day one, there's going to be an asterisk for your record. Do you guys see this ridiculous word the same way I do?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about it as much as you have, obviously, but Yeah, I mean, you looked at yesterday, and I was thinking about that because, the Eagles went into that game with 68 sacks, and the NFL record is 72.
Yep.
And you're thinking, okay, well, what if they get 5? Are people going to look at it and say, well, they did it in 17 games? And there would have been an asterisk, but they didn't get it anyway. But so I mean, you do what you deal with. You look at numbers and nobody pays attention to how many games it took. How many games. I mean, look at all the 1,000-yard rushers right now. Mainly because we've gone from 14 to 16 to 17 games, so it's a lot easier to do. But that's the way it goes.
All right, Adam. The Eagles have a guy, and then there's horses for courses, as they say in horse racing, and there's horses for courses with humans as well. Boston Scott is Joe Average when any other NFL team walks onto the field, the Eagles and 30 others. But when the Giants walk onto the field to play the Eagles, Boston Scott becomes Superman. Just destroys the New York Giants. Is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it a coincidence? Scored again yesterday. What is this with Boston Scott?
Yeah, it's one of those things. What they call him the Giant Killer. I guess.
Yep, absolutely.
It's one of those things where certain players, and playing against certain teams, it brings out the best in you. And I wish I could play. I wish I could play like that every game. But it's amazing to watch because you just know when the Giants come into town, they're going to go to play the Giants. He's going to bring his best game, and it's fun to watch.
You ever see anything like it, Domo?
No. He's just fun to watch. He's just a great guy, and he's a guy that every year you think, this is going to be his last year. They're going to find somebody bigger, somebody stronger, faster, and he just keeps, holding on to that third string job and becoming valuable when you least expect it.
Well, the $64,000 question we're going to ask you when you guys come back. Is Jalen Hurts hurt? How bad is his shoulder? What do you expect from the playoffs? Playoffs start obviously this weekend. Eagles, in 2 weeks. We'll get back to that and find out where the Eagles are going to land, who they're going to play, how Jalen's going to feel. Is Lane going to be back? Is Avonte going to be back? What's Nick going to do? We'll address all that when we come back on the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff from here at the Hard Rock Cafe right after this.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City at 12th and Market Streets has it all. Great food takes center stage with dine-in and pickup available. Their burgers are so famous, they have their own chauffeurs. So order delivery and catering too. So if you're celebrating or just getting the band together, Hard Rock Cafe's got your back. For more info, hit up hardrockcafe.com.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Don't hang out alone in the man cave this football season. Hang out at Cheerleaders with sexy entertainers, $4 Miller Lights, Jameson specials, and awesome game day prizes during all Sunday and Monday football games. Stop in before, during, or after the game to see your favorite entertainers and your chance to win an awesome game day prize. The most epic game day experience is at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, where champions play. Open daily from noon till 2 a.m.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
And welcome back here to the Hard Rock Cafe. Adam Taliaferro, our guest, our co-host Paul Domowitch. And guys, the Eagles will have the number 10 pick in the 2023 NFL Draft due to the Saints' last second loss to Carolina yesterday. At the top of the draft, I'm My person of the day yesterday, Damo, has got to be Lovie Smith. In the ultimate bleep you, after they fired David Culley, after 1 year, a wonderful man, David Culley, a pretty good football coach. 1 year he got in Houston with no roster. Then they went to Lovie Smith, 1 year, no roster. You want to hire minorities because you want to give them a chance? Cool. You want to hire minorities to be part of a list? To me, that's what Houston did. And Lovie Smith, of course, knew he was going to get fired, beat the Colts on the way out, gave the number 1 draft pick to the Bears. They're not going to take a quarterback. They have Justin Fields, but they're going to trade it for a king's ransom somewhere. How do you see the top of the draft going and the Eagles at 10?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of what happened there, that's disgraceful. I mean, getting rid of 2 black coaches, one and done. Getting rid of any coach, one and done. I mean, nobody.
2 in a row.
You know, how about blaming the people that are picking the talent? You know,
same GM. He didn't get whacked.
Yeah, I mean, Lovie did it. I mean, Lovie is one of the best defensive coaches I've ever been around. Did a good job with Houston's defense. They had a good defense. Their offense, they've got nobody. I mean,
they almost beat Dallas. They almost beat a couple teams.
And then they go out and win and blow the chance to have the first pick.
Adam, as a black man, does it? I mean, as you're obviously a black American. Does it bother you specifically to see this happen to minorities in coaching? Somebody gets a shot. I mean, as Damo said, happen to anybody 1 and out 2 years in a row as a team that has no idea what it's doing. Does it make it worse that both are minorities and people are going to say that they were exploited in some way?
Yeah, you know, it's always tough to see, but I appreciate that, you know, folks are getting opportunities, but to your point, you just, you know, and I think most folks kind of see it for what it is, that, you know, these guys weren't really given a fair shake to make the team that their own and really try to turn the program around. But, you know, it's just been, from my standpoint, I'm often, you know, guilty of this sometimes, but I try to see the positive in everything. Yeah. And I think, you know, the fact that folks are getting opportunities is a step in the right direction.
You know, it's going to happen in unfortunately, I think, in Carolina too.
Steve
Wilkes, he also went 1 and done in Arizona.
Yep.
Has done a good. You know, they fired Matt Rule after a 1-4 start, and Steve they went 6-6 under him. I mean, they should be hurrying to re-sign him, give him a contract, and make him the
after
permanent
trading
head
Christian
coach.
McCaffrey, by the way.
Exactly, without Christian McCaffrey, and instead, you know, the word is they're looking for the next young offensive genius. Steve's a defensive coach. I don't know who that's going to be. Sean McVay apparently is bored with winning Super Bowl, so
he's going to TV.
Yeah, he's going to TV or middle school teaching or something. I don't know.
Well, the coaching carousel spins. I mean, 3 coaches during the year. Cliff Kingsbury today, shocking with the Cardinals. Couldn't coach at Texas Tech. And obviously Lovie Smith, Sean McVay, who knows what he's going to do. Belichick said he'll be back. A lot of nervous Nellies about that one. Belichick coming back is about as uncertain as the sun coming up tomorrow as he approaches the all-time NFL record for victories. Another thing, Adam, another layer of suspense we're left in is Aaron Rodgers, who's coming back to Green Bay. He's making $50 million a year. It's guaranteed. They don't want that off the cap. The whole world is going to speculate about where Aaron Rodgers is going in the offseason. He's going to want to have himself in the news, so he'll be mysterious. Do you see any other way, and Damo can chime in on this too, I see no other way other than Aaron Rodgers going back to Green Bay with a couple rookie receivers. Do you see any other way?
I watched a little bit of his press conference after the game yesterday, and to your point, it sounds like it was very ominous, where he sounded like he was either going to want to out or he was planning on retiring. But to your point, with the financial side of things, I think it makes it difficult to see it any other way besides
almost impossible, Damo.
Returning. Yep.
You know, I didn't see the press conference. What I saw was after the game was watching him walk around the field, and it was weird. It was like a guy realizing he's not going to do this again, or at least there, and was kind of taking it all in, and so I don't know what that meant. I don't know.
It means for a fact Aaron Rodgers decided to look around so people on radio shows the next day will say he was looking around like it was. He's all about Aaron Rodgers.
You're giving him too much. Well, yeah, you're right, but I don't know if that means he's retiring or if it does mean he's going someplace else. I mean, right now we're hearing Tom Brady's going to be with the Raiders next year
or Miami.
Well, yeah, they supposedly are offering him part of ownership. That's why they lost their first round pick. It's crazy. I mean, but you cannot succeed in this league without a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Well, you can't succeed without a head coach either. And one of the guys, Adam, that makes football somewhat kind of fun, he's a lunatic. We saw him on Hard Knocks, Dan Campbell. The Eagles lost close to the Lions. I've loved this team all year. They play hard. And last night when they got eliminated by Seattle, they played fun. They were making plays where people were on Twitter saying, how can they do that? How can you throw in the last minute? Because you missed the playoffs. You're having fun. You want to play a kid's game and have joy doing it. Damo, Adam, I love the way the Lions play. They're obviously a team that's going to come through in the future and be somewhere. They're kind of the Jacksonville of the NFC. They missed the playoffs. But I love that team. You guys like them?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a huge fan of Hard Knocks, and I shout out Shannon Furman, who's a producer of Hard Knocks, Penn Stater. And I remember talking to her, and she was, after the Hard Knocks series, she was talking up Detroit like they were like the bet, like they were just going to be this team this year. Yep. And I know they got off to a rough start, but just to see that the way that they've turned it around, it seems like those players are really rallied around Dan Campbell, and they're going to be exciting to watch in the foreseeable future.
They're better than at least 5 teams that made the playoffs. They just kind of got it together too late.
Well, how many? You talk about better tthan teams. There's a team in the playoffs in the AFC, coached by somebody that used to coach the Eagles, Doug, Peter, whatever. 9-8 after Urban Meyer. Trevor Lawrence has morphed into a guy that looked like he was the number 1 pick. Damo, is Jacksonville a team that the Chargers or anybody else wants to be playing now? Tell me, are they a threat this year, and how do you see them 2-3 years down the road?
Very much so. I mean, I think they're going to beat the Chargers. They're certainly capable of it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence right now is playing as well as any quarterback in the league.
Yep.
Doug Peterson is you go from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson. I don't know. I can't make a funny comparison here, but it's, Urban Meyer did not belong in the NFL.
Nope.
Doug is a quarterback whisperer. I mean, he salvaged that kid, and I think that team is going to be a Super Bowl contender within 2 years.
Adam, you got a sleeper team in the playoffs this weekend, or obviously we'll talk about the Eagles in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about them later this show, but who's the Taliaferro sleeper of the day?
I don't know if it's a sleeper, but Tampa Bay, I always look at Tom Brady and what he does in the playoffs, and
can never count him out.
Can never count him out, and I love that matchup with the Cowboys because we all know what the Cowboys do in the playoffs. So that's what I'm highly anticipating watching, how that game turns out, and I would love to see Brady. But then does that mean they'll be coming to Philly if they win?
It depends on what the Giants do.
Okay.
Eagles play the lowest seeded team that wins this weekend. Damo, obviously Tampa Bay, I said in the middle of the year I thought they were the sleeper team. They were in the sense that they were asleep. Is it Brady? Has Brady gone downhill? Has the team gone downhill around him? Because to me, Brady's played pretty good football, and the team around him has just been flat as a pancake. You obviously have to attribute some of that to Brady, but to me, not much.
Well, their biggest problem right from the start has been, Tom Brady needs a solid interior line to protect him. He's not going anywhere. He's as stationary as they come. So he needs 2 good guards and a center that are going to just not let anybody in. And that was where their weakness was in their line. So he's been under pressure most of the year. They've been dinking and dunking and getting the ball out of there quickly. And they've had a lot of injuries at wide receiver. Mike Evans seemed to be somewhere else for much of the year. Now he's finally got it together. So, I agree with Adam. I think, you can't count them out because of Brady. I don't think his talent has eroded at all. I don't know how, 45 years old to be doing this is just, amazing. If they could catch lightning in a bottle here.
All right, and then back here to Philadelphia, guys. The Eagles, Jonathan Gannon, rumored to be a candidate in Houston. 70 sacks, 3rd in NFL history. Most of it from the front 4. 4 guys with 10. BG got 10 this year. Good for him. But takes a lot of flack. Adam, you played defense. You were a cornerback. How do you feel about the term blitz? Everybody blitzes. Some teams, it's the DNA of the defense coordinator like Buddy Ryan. Other guys like Jonathan Gannon favor soft zones. Is it about the talent? Is it about the system? Why does Jonathan Gannon take so much flack around here?
Yeah, it's hard to really put your finger on it because from my vantage point, I think defenses play really well, and as you mentioned, they set records from a sack perspective. But people, I think the public loves seeing that blitz. They love seeing that action, and when it doesn't happen, people think you're a little too conservative. But I think he's done a great job, and it's been fun to watch the defense. Secondary, Slay is even the play yesterday, letting up that long touchdown was a little concerning. But
he's had a rough second half, Tom, hasn't he?
He has.
Yeah, he hasn't. I mean, you forget how old he is. I mean, he's getting up there.
He's 31. It's not like he's Methuselah.
Well, for a cornerback, it's you're starting to. Yeah, you only got to lose a step at that position to suddenly be night and day. It's kind of like a running back. But yeah, I mean, he's not having his best year. It was big for them to get C.J. Gardner-Johnson back because they were missing that.
Played
piece.
Slot corner too.
Yeah, with Avonte Maddox out, they were kind of. They were using Maddox as a slot. And also backing him up in safety when they didn't need him in the slot. So getting him back is good. The guy that I'm concerned about going forward, Jolly, is Lane Johnson. I mean, he's going to play in the playoffs. I just don't know how. We're going to find out how effective he is. I mean, he's playing with he's going to be playing with a sports hernia.
Yep.
There's been guys that have played an entire season with it. I remember Brent Selleck, 2011. Played with a sports hernia and a torn hip muscle. He was on the injury list like twice and had one of his best seasons. He just played constant. I mean, Brent Selleck could play with a knife in his back. And that's kind of how Lane is. It's just that it's a different position. I mean, he's going to be on that end, and you got to move laterally against some of the best edge rushers in football in the playoffs. Is he going to be able to do that? I don't know. It's going to be critical for them that he can because, Jack Driscoll is, he's good. He's okay. But he's nothing. Micah Parsons will eat his lunch, I think.
All right. When we come back, guys, I'm going to ask each of you a question. Who is the Eagles' best player now? However you define it, heading into the playoffs, whatever your metric is, each of you, who is the Philadelphia Eagles' best player? We've heard Lane Johnson. We've heard as a quarterback lead, Jalen Hurts. We've heard others. Nobody says Avonte Maddox, but a slot corner hurt at this point. Big deal. 8 Eagles make the Pro Bowl. Who is the Eagles' best player? We'll hear from Domo and Adam Taliaferro on the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. We come right back to the Hard Rock with Mike Warren and crew right after this.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City has it all. Great food, free live entertainment on Friday nights, and they're the epicenter for special occasions. Let them rock and roll to you with catering for your next gathering or book a private event space for your band's next meeting. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or late night, let them turn it up at Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See spa for details.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
All right, back here at the Hard Rock. Our guest next week is Ray Didinger. Damo, I could talk until next week with Adam Taliaferro, who's our guest, who could fill these airwaves for many, many, many hours. It's such a privilege to have Adam on. So, Adam, I'll ask you first here. The Eagles' best player, taking everything into account with whatever you think about football, whatever you think about the Eagles, whatever you think about the playoffs, whatever you think about everything, the Eagles' best player is?
I would go to easy choice, say Jalen. But I think I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. And the reason I say that is because as a quarterback, you always got to have that security blanket. You know, someone with Jalen, coming off his injury, someone that you can, if I throw the ball, I can trust they're going to make a play. And I think he's really going to rely on A.J. And A.J.'s done it throughout the entire season. It's been that guy that can really open up the passing game, which again leads to opening up the run as well. So I would say from my viewpoint, AJ is my guy.
I broke Mike Quick's record, obviously in 17 games, but that's the new norm. Damo, Eagles' best player is?
I'm going to go on the other side of the ball and go with a guy that, like Adam, is a South Jersey native, Hassan Reddick. He has, he's got, 16 sacks?
78 almost.
Yeah. And the thing about it is 9 of them, which is the most in the league, are on third down. Wow. I mean, the Eagles lead the league not only in sacks, but in third down sacks. Yeah. They get him when they're critical. And, I mean, you watch him on third down, he's like a man possessed. And that's been critical to, I mean, they've gotten burned in third downs. I mean, as we saw in the 3rd and 30 in the Cowboy game.
They're 1 for 2 now.
But yeah, but I mean he's been big on third down. He's been big right now. He's a prime candidate for Defensive Player of the Year in the NFL.
He is, and a couple others, Nick Bosa, the Niners, other people going to be in the playoffs. We wonder how far can the Eagles go. Will this be a repeat of 2017? Nicky Sixx obviously is in Indianapolis now. Jalen's here. We'll see how healthy he is. And as you go along, guys, you want to play the lowest common denominator, the weakest team. Damo and I both think the Giants are going to beat the Vikings. I think anybody would beat the Vikings. Just not a big Viking guy. Kevin O'Connell's done a nice job, but they just don't seem that good. Who do you see him playing, Damo, and how far do you see him going?
The Eagles?
Yeah.
I think they're going to make it. Well, I mean, they are capable of going to the Super Bowl and win it, but I know that I shouldn't say no because it's football. I think it's going to be them in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. After that, I don't know how it's going to break. San Francisco is a team that's going to give them problems. They've got one of the best defenses in the league. Well, probably the best, yeah. And they've got an offense that does so many different things and can run the ball, which gives the Eagles problems.
Can Brock Purdy beat the Eagles? If it
that's
comes
the thing.
down to Brock Purdy.
That's mystifying.
Yep.
I mean, I'm really impressed by that kid. To play as I mean, he doesn't look like a rookie. Granted, he's got a great cast around him. Right. He just doesn't. I mean, the game has already slowed down for him. It usually takes guys 2 years to get where he seems to be. I mean, I got a chance to watch him a lot when he was at Iowa State because my wife's an Oklahoma grad, and we would watch a lot of Big 12 games. So I saw the kid. I was kind of surprised that he didn't go earlier in the draft, but he's exceeded anybody's expectations.
Mr. Irrelevant, Adam, could be Mr. Relevant in the playoffs. Who do you see the Eagles playing in 2 weeks, and how far do you see the Birds going?
Yeah, I agree with Paul as well. I think, the way San Francisco is playing, I think we're going to hopefully see them here in a couple weeks. But, just to think a rookie quarterback coming in here in front of this Eagles crazy crowd, if he pulls out that victory, of course, he's got a great supporting staff with McCaffrey and Debo and those guys.
Yep.
But I just think, it's so great that Eagles have home field advantage. I think that's going to mean a lot, going throughout this.
As long as the Eagles don't have a few early false starts that get the crowd to turn on them.
You're right.
Also, a defensive coordinator that you just play with this team that's going to be a head coach next year, you got to think, unless he takes the Eric Bieniemy route of never getting a job. Does Bieniemy get a job this year? Does DeMeco Ryans get a job? Tell me who belongs where. I think the Broncos guys are going to hire an offensive head coach. They can interview all the defensive guys they want. Anybody you see in the coaching carousel with specific seats on the merry-go-round?
Well, I mean, Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh have kind of messed up everything here because you don't know where the hell they're going to go or who's going to interview them. But DeMeco Ryans, before Sean Payton decided to announce he was coming back, it was at the top of my list of guys that, I mean, he's just, I covered him when he was here. I mean, he's just a natural leader. He's done an incredible job with their defense. I think he's going to be a very successful head coach. So, I mean, he'd be mine. If I were an owner right now and needed a head coach, D'Amico Ryans would be the guy I would hire.
Adam, there's a little award called the MVP in the National Football League that a lot of people have boiled down to Jalen Hurts, who obviously missed a couple games, and Patrick Mahomes, who threw more picks. But other than that, did basically nothing wrong in leading the Chiefs to the number 1 seed, albeit in a whatever way with what happened with the Buffalo Bengals game. But the number 1 seed, who would you vote for MVP if you had a vote?
Yeah.
One of those two, somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a little bit biased, but I think Jalen, I mean, we all saw just the true value he had to the team being out, the last couple of weeks, and, what he's done. He's just been a tremendous leader for this team. I know Patrick Mahomes has done, fantastic things out in Kansas City, but in my own personal opinion, I have to give it to Jalen.
Tomo, how much is the versatility? I mean, is Jalen your MVP? And a lot of people say, well, Patrick Mahomes doesn't run. Well, if you throw for 38 million yards, you don't have to run. I mean, everybody has their own niche. I would vote for Jalen too, but people vote for Mahomes. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, it's funny you asked. I vote for the awards and the All-Pro thing. I've been doing it for about 20 years, and it's due on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty much set on everything except I don't know who I'm voting for MVP. It's between Hurts and Mahomes. It's a dead heat in my mind. I just, these two games have shown people how valuable Jalen is. So. And Jalen's so unique. I mean, what he brings to the table, both as a runner and a passer. Like people that watch him run when he got hurt said, they need to stop this. They need to, put him in the pocket. Well, that's not who he is. That's not, and that's not who he'll ever be. So I'm torn on that as far as who I'm going to vote for.
All right, we got the games this weekend, but they'll play out, and we'll see there. I got to ask Adam a question. We only got a couple minutes left. Adam, it's been 20 years, give or take, since this happened at Ohio State. When you're watching the game now, you were a cornerback. You were starting at Penn State as a freshman. It's not inconceivable that you could have been an NFL player, that you could have been a Hall of Famer or anything in between. I mean, how much do you envy guys playing now, and if your career going in a different direction, do you ever dream what if?
Yeah, I would be 100% lying if I didn't think, what could have been. And, I often watch football, and, the funny part now, look, all the guys I play with are retired now, guys, my contemporaries. But,
You're an old man.
Yeah, I'm an old man now.
We're older than you are, yeah.
But we got, I went to Eastern High School, and we got 2 guys from Eastern. You got Logan Ryan playing for the Bucks, and Eli Apple playing in Cincinnati, 2 Eastern DBs. So I kind of live vicariously through those guys, and just so proud of them and everything that they've accomplished.
By the way, Damo, Brandon Staley of the Chargers, he talking about Eastern. He played a couple guys that didn't play at Eastern but shouldn't have been playing anyway yesterday. Got half his team hurt. Why?
Yeah, that's the dilemma. Every coach faces that last week of the season.
Rest versus rust.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it has been absolutely a treat to have Adam Taliaferro here.
Yes.
One of the most inspirational stories ever in the history of this planet. Paralyzed on the field, back in society, making a great contribution, and putting smiles on our faces. And with what happened in the last week, an obvious parallel. Adam, best of luck in the future. Stay well, stay healthy, and God bless.
No, thank you both for having me. It's just an honor to be with you both tonight.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Damo, let's do it again next week with
You
Ray
betcha.
Diddy.
You betcha.
See who the Eagles are going to play. Monday night game next week. No Monday night game tonight. National championship game. Take TCU in the points, everybody. This Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff has been produced by Chris Ermer, Keith Noonan back at the station. For Paul Domowitch and Adam Taliaferro, I'm Paul Jolovitz for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff from the Hard Rock Cafe, saying good luck. Enjoy the football this weekend. Next week, go Eagles.
You've been listening to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Tonight's show is an exclusive presentation of WBCB 1490 and 107.3 FM and heard around the world at WBCB1490.com.